My topic today is we've come this far by grace. We're starting a new theme this month of February, and the theme is grace. We've come this far by grace. The inspiration for that particular topic is a phrase that's very, very popular, and there's a song that we actually sing with it. We've come this far by faith. It's a beautiful song, and it was one of the songs that was one of the prime songs in the civil rights movement. We've come this far by faith, leaning on the Lord, trusting in its lasting word. And it goes on that we can't turn around. We've come this far by faith. Okay? And it's not just a simple song. That part of the reason why it was a song in the civil rights movement, it was this declaration as people were marching. And they're getting closer and closer to whatever it is. They're getting closer to the dogs. They're getting closer to the police, closer to the horses, closer to the fire hoses or whatever. And it's saying, hey, God has brought us this far by faith. From the ships on up, we're here. We can't turn around now. We cannot turn around now. Something's brought us this far, and it will bring us the rest of the way. So I want you to think about that in your lives. In those moments when we start to feel very weak, in those moments when we start to feel like we can't make it or it's not going to happen, remember, okay? Remember. I'm in the middle of doing a Bible class now at the Holmes Institute. And the first session of the class was open to the public. And we spent most of the time not only doing Bible history, but the story of the feeding of the 5,000. It's one of those famous parables. I'm not going to go all into the story, but it's how a few loaves and fish were able to feed thousands of people through this particular process of blessing and all of the rest of that. And then there's a story that follows right after that. Okay? And it's this story about the wind and the rain and all of the rest of that. And people can't figure out, like, how in the world is Jesus able to get up from the bow and calm the wind and the rain and to say, peace be still, and call it out when his disciples, which represent all the faculties of our mind, are just freaking out. And Jesus is asleep. And they're like, how can you sleep through all of this? And he said, then he gets up and he says, why do you have such little faith? And they're wondering. But the point of all of this is that it says in one of the versions of this, they failed to consider the feeding of the 5,000. They failed to consider. And that word is to consider is to bring something back to a point of recollection where you can do something with it. Okay? We fail to consider the miracles in our life. We fail to consider those times when we have been brought forth, when something has already happened. So what we do is we have a victory, we make it through, and then it's like, whew, that one's over. Okay? And then the next one comes along, and it's like, oh, what's going to happen? Whew, made it. But we're starting from ground zero every time because we're not building. It's not becoming cumulative. Every time that we've been brought through, that's not becoming another step on our ladder up to glory and grace, so to speak. We're starting all over again. And that's because we're using the Almighty, however you're defining it to be. We're using God or whatever the way that I used to, as a child, want my parents or my brother to come and save me from the boogeyman. Okay, because I was scared to death of the boogeyman. And the boogeyman was always around the corner. Now, of course, my brother helped to reinforce that idea. I almost hesitated to say that I asked my brother to come and help with the boogeyman because it took me a while to figure out that he was just in trying to help me. He'd be like, boo! And I'd be like, ah! And he's like, oh, we can't go over there. The boogeyman's over there. But he's the one that did it. But I was always trying to be saved from the boogeyman. Okay? But as long as I still think there's a boogeyman, and I have somebody constantly saving me from the boogeyman, guess what? There's always going to be the boogeyman. There's always going to be, no matter where I am. If I'm at Auntie's house, if I'm at the campsite, it doesn't matter. Okay? Because it's the construct itself. Are you with me? It's the construct itself. And I can remember the day I finally decided to face my fears. The day I finally decided I was going to stay up all night. And I did. I stayed up all night, and it was the only way that I was able to prove to myself that the boogeyman didn't exist. As it turned out, my primary boogeyman, there was a box. I don't even know what had been in the box, but it had a kind of metallic sort of outer on the cardboard. And there was a particular lamp from the street that would come through the window that would shine on that metallic in such a way as to kind of make me think like something was in there. And it just took looking at that and looking at it and looking at it all night, and then watching how when the sun came up, it seemed to fade. And it seemed to fade. And when I got the courage to go there and to see, it was just the box. It was just the box. Okay? There are all these different times when we've been pulled through by something. And if you're in this room, I know you know what I'm talking about. Sometimes I'm amazed that any of us actually make it to adulthood. I'm serious. When you think about all the dangers, the mistakes, I'm amazed. I'm amazed that we don't even get lost. That our parents actually manage to continuously find us. And like at the end, and now that's not true for everybody. I'm not making light of it, because there are a lot of kids that are still out there missing. But just the fact, honestly, it utterly amazes me. Now, it may not have been pretty. You may not have had all the support that you wanted to have. The people that you wanted to be there for you may not have been there, okay? But somebody taught you how to use the toilet. Saw a bumper sticker, if you're reading this, thank a teacher. It's like somebody somewhere, are you with me? You ate food at 5, 6, 7 years old. You didn't grow it. It was there. We sleep in places that we probably didn't build. Life is always going before us and preparing for us. Are you with me? We call it grace. We don't really know what it is. We don't. We don't know what anything really is. We don't. I said that in my TEDx talk yesterday. TEDx Berkeley. Did this whole long thing about forgiveness, and right before I did Wilhelmina, who, by the way, took the house down. Wilhelmina is my alter ego, and I completely rewrote her why I got to forgive piece. It was something. It was really, really something. But there's this place where I said, we don't know. You ask what forgiveness is. I said, we don't know what it is. We don't know what life is. We don't know what love is. We don't know. We don't know what joy is or peace or power, integrity. We don't know what it is. The best we can do is talk about how it exists a little bit. And don't confuse isness with existence. I love the way that Emily Cady put it in the infamous Lessons in Truth, published by Unity, like 100 years ago. She said, God is, man exists. X to come out of. It's like we come out of something. There are a lot of things that exist that have no isness. Isness means that it's inherent, it's natural, and you can never get rid of it. See, poverty exists, but it has no isness. Are you with me? Racism exists, but it has no isness. Cancer exists, but it has no isness. The anatomy of the body does not include cancer. That doesn't mean it's not a circumstance that comes up, but we give things in our minds that merely exist the status of isness. But it's not. It's not. It's like this example I give all the time. And it's stuck in our English language. The way our English language is a mutt language. It's not a pure language. Its roots are Latin and Greek and German and Old French, and it has all these different roots. It is a constructed language. It's actually one of the newer languages, and it is a language of colonization. It was a language that was deliberately put together for the purpose of the imperialization. Okay? It is constructed in such a way as to take the mystery out. It is constructed in such a way as to make you believe that there is a beginning, a middle, and an end. And the most dangerous thing about it, and I love the English language, trust me, but the most dangerous thing about it is the way that it has us being whatever we have. So it creates a mental caste system because you are what you have. It's the way that we construct I am. I am. See? Now in Spanish, they have different verbs of being. There's ser, which is the real is. It's like the I am. It's the thing that's not going to change. And then they have tener, which is more of the it exists. Okay, it's here now, but that doesn't mean it has to be. So in English, we would say, like, I am this. I am whatever. I am my experience. I'm this many years old. But you would never say that in Spanish. You would never say soy hombre, like I am hunger. No, it's tener. Tengo, I have hunger. Do you feel the difference in that? I have hunger versus I am hunger. I have 20 years versus I am 20 years. Can you feel how that sits in your brain about what I am? What I am. I was sharing last night at this dinner at the TEDx Berkeley. I remember it was about 10 years ago, and I was having this conversation with somebody and very close to me, and we were playing that game of what would you do if you knew it wasn't impossible? And I thought about it, and I thought about these different things, and one of the things I said I'd be a deaf poet. I said, really? Because I really liked doing poetry. They said, well, why don't you do that? I said, oh, I can't do that. They said, why? I said, I'm too old. That's what I said. I said, I'm too old. I said, because when you look, so the deaf poetry is a certain kind of a poetry that a lot of times we think of it as spoken word poetry. And it's very poignant and it's very powerful. and I really, really like it. But I didn't think that I could play on that stage at all. So I said, well, why don't you just go for it? Why don't you just go for it? And I remember something that Terry Cole Whitaker had said, where this guy, she's having this conversation with this guy, and she says, what do you really want to do? He says, I really want to be an engineer. She says, why don't you do that? Well, in 4 years, I'll be 40. So she says, well, how old are you going to be in 4 years if you don't go to engineering school? Think about that, really. How many times do we stop ourselves? Because if I do this, I'm going to be that. Well, you're going to be that anyway. So why don't you just do it? So yesterday was a real breakthrough for me. It was a real breakthrough for me taking the spoken word to a world stage, mind you, even 10 years older than I was when I was just questioning it. And here's the thing, is that, and I'm not saying this to brag, but it was this long standing ovation. And apparently that rarely happens in TED. That rarely does anybody get a standing O. So the organizers were just so pleased because they knew it landed somewhere. So here's the thing, with this piece about why I got to forgive, it just became another genre. We had church. We had church up in there, I'm telling you. The comments afterwards that went on for hours with the receptions and whatnot, people were really hit. They were really hit. TEDx Berkeley is sponsored through UC Berkeley. So most of the organizers and whatnot are students. Of course, with a lot of advisors and tech help and everything else, but it's a student-driven thing. So there are literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these students, and they're all hungry, telling me their stories about their hurts, their pains, the forgiveness, what's going on with their siblings and their parents and their boyfriends and their girlfriends and social justice issues and all of the rest of that. And it was so extraordinary. Are you with me? It was so extraordinary. Now, I was freaking out. No, I was freaking out because all these different things had happened and I didn't have enough time and to prepare, and I was so nervous. But there's some point when you get out of the way. There's some point when you get out of the way and you lend yourself to something that's greater than you are. And then it comes through you. Let yourself be used. Okay? It's not our own might. It's not our own intelligence. The best way I could describe it, it would be like if you were dancing, yes, to be a dancer, you stretch, you learn different moves, you have a certain, way of dexterity and flexibility. But if you're really going to dance, you can't be in your head about it. You can't be in your head about, okay, I'm going to move my arm this way, I'm going to move my arm that way, or my feet are going to do 1, 2, cha, cha, cha. At some point, are you with me? At some point, you have to give into it. At some point, you have to be the dance. At some point, you have to be the dance. Okay? That's the thing I call grace. It's this way that you were being provided for just because. The way that light is showing up and helping you and supporting you and being there for you just because. Now, the definition of that word in the New Testament, grace, comes from the Greek word charis, from which we get the word charity. Okay? And it is described as unmerited favor, which we have misinterpreted to mean undeserved. That grace comes from unmerited favor. you get these things, but you don't really deserve them. It's unmerited favor because it is without merit. It cannot be earned. Can you feel the difference in that? Favor that you can't earn versus favor you don't deserve. Two entirely different things. And because we have gotten stuck in the I don't deserve it, we're busy trying to earn it. Catch that? Because we're so afraid we don't deserve it, we're busy trying to prove to ourselves that we deserve it. Trying to prove to other people, trying to even prove to God that we deserve it. But you can't get it through your merits. You can't get it through your merits. When you think of those huge breakthroughs that you've had, think of those places maybe you've been stuck in relationships that's been very tough or very hard. And when that moment came of that breakthrough, wasn't it humbling? Wasn't it humbling? It's like suddenly you got something you hadn't been getting. Like your whole line of thinking had you going down a certain path. But it's when you stepped back from that for a little moment and let yourself get a glimpse of something else. Okay? And then in that moment, you just could feel that grace. You didn't know what it was, but you were like, thank God I was blind, but now I see. Thank you. Thank you. It's the provision that's there. We can't earn it. There's nothing you can do. Nothing you can do to earn it. I'm smiling now because I remember a session that I had recently with my Bible students at Holmes Institute, and I grew up very Pentecostal. And I would say that I thought, in terms of this reward and earn things, that I thought the Catholics had it really easy. Because whenever something happened, they could like say these few things and it was over. And it really confused me because like when they said bad words or cussed, I heard it as Hail Mary, H-E-L-L. So I was like, you got it made. You get to cuss and then you say Hail Mary 3 times? And you've earned your forgiveness? We need to convert. Anybody ever been in recovery? I'm talking about grace. You can't earn it. You can't earn it. And the reason why you can't earn it, it's because it's already yours. That's why you can't earn it. You can't earn the universe providing for you because it already does. You can't earn life. You can't earn the right to life because you already have it. You can't earn the right to be loved. You already have it. I love that bumper sticker, Lord, make me the person my dog thinks I am. Make me the person my dog thinks I am. Can you imagine if you just thought of yourself as the person? that your cat thinks you are? They're pretty smart. Animals are really smart. They're sensing the goodness in you that you can't even sense. Can you imagine if you were as happy to see yourself every day as your dog was to see you? Can you imagine how much happy you would be if you had that kind of expectation every day? Woo! What exciting thing is going to happen here? But that's what it's like. That's what it's like. And I'm not trying to say like God's a dog or anything. You know, it is reversed, but the universe is waiting for you with that kind of excitement. You know, don't come home and kick the dog. Okay? We're bad-mouthing God. We're bad-mouthing the universe. We're bad-mouthing this and that. And when there's something that's going, hey, I love you. I love you. Let's play. I love you. Let's play. You know, well, we're going to have to move. I don't care. I love you. Let's play. Well, you know, we can't have, you know, the kind of meal you want to have tonight. I don't care. Let's love you, you know. Let's play. Well, you know, my wife is leaving me, my husband's leaving. I don't care. Let's play. That's grace. That's grace. It's waiting for us, and it's been there for you. So in those moments when you're busy trying to figure out where it's going to come from, how is it going to work, instead of trying to micromanage the future, go back. Go back in your memory. Remember those times where somehow or another it worked out. And you don't understand how. Go back. Okay? And be with that so much that it comes back into your conscious awareness. Where it can be a place where you can stand. Go back. When things mark our experience, we can remember everything about it. I remember when Dr. Joe Dispenza at Revelation said, how many of you remember 9/11? He said, you remember where you were? You remember what time it was? You remember how you thought? Who was around? Yes? Because there's some events that mark us, so to speak. Let those miracles mark you. So when I say remember, don't just like kind of sort of, what did it feel like? What did it smell like? What did it taste like? What was the feeling that was going on with you? Are you with me? So those places of where we experience that most amazing grace become so real to us that it is a vibratory field we can tap back into. Like you can close your eyes and see the sunset. Or you close your eyes, you remember that moment you held your baby for the first time. And if we keep going back to those places, you won't be in so much fear. You keep going back to those places, you won't worry that much about how it's going to work out. Because you'll be like, you know, I didn't know before. I didn't know before. But I'm here. Because I've come this far. May not be pretty, but I'm here. And you didn't get here on your own. I'm telling you that now. You didn't get here on your own. And pay it forward. People help you, you help them. I'm serious. You don't have to know them. They could be strangers. With that little piece of grace, this provision. And I'm going to end with this story. And I know I've told this story before, but it was one of those moments that marked me that I won't forget. It was a number of years ago. Had to be 80, because that's when I started graduate business school at UCLA. And I didn't know about the system for getting the parking permits, and I was just too late in my first quarter. And there was a parking structure that was right next to the graduate, it was then called the Graduate School of Management. And I would pay $5 every day to park and go to class. So this one particular day, I only had $5. That was it. I think I actually only really had $5. But back then, this is before ATMs and all the rest of that. So you couldn't just go someplace and get some money. But I was sure that I only had $5 on me. But I'm thinking, for what was going on in my life right then, I probably just had $5. And I was having to make the choice between lunch and parking. This particular day, it was an exam. And I did not want to be late for this exam because only God knows where you're going to park in Westwood if you don't park in a parking structure. So I get up to the kiosk. This is before all the automated, you could do it yourself. And there's this guy there, I've never seen him before, this old black man, which was very rare on UCLA's campus. And he is slow. Oh my God, he is slow. Like only an old black man can be. And he's going around, and he's looking at the car, and he's talking to me, and he's just going on, and I'm trying to be so polite. And he's like, you go to school here? Yes, sir, yes, sir. And I got an exam, and if you can just And he's asking me this, and he's asking me that, and I'm like, God, just please, 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 give me the ticket. I'm thinking, and I'm breathing, and he takes the little stub thing, and he sticks it inside the windshield, and whatnot, and I start to give him the $5. And he pushes my hand away. And he said, this one's on Daddy. And then he said, get yourself some lunch. And he looked me dead in the eye and said, you do good in there because I believe in you. Never saw that man before, never saw him again. I'm not really sure he existed, if you know what I mean. That was my first real conscious remembrance of that was an angel. That was grace. I will never forget that. It wasn't but $5, but it marked my life forever. It marked my life forever. And to hear him say, I believe in you, 30-something years ago, knowing that he would have never had a chance to have been in UCLA's Graduate School of Business, ever. And here this man who's given me a $5 ride, saying you go in there. That's the kind of grace I'm talking about. You go back to your life and you remember those times. Could be really, really simple and really, really small. Still makes me tear up today. And then you build on those. When you consider those, you don't freak out so much about life. And life becomes a good thing, yes? Yes.